Hello everybody, welcome to The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 10, episode titled Them, Recap Review, whatever you want to call it. Description from TV is the, what is it? Life on the Road. Yeah, Life on the Road has the group beaten and beleaguered. Bewildered? Beleaguered? I don't know. Can't read good. Um, This felt like a long episode. There was a whole lot of commercials if you watched it on television. If you don't, good for you. Thumbs up. Sometimes I won't watch on television. Yeah, check out that logo. Um, so basically, not to be super duper negative, I enjoy The Walking Dead. I enjoy the comic books. I like this. I'm into this. But they're so good at repeating the same situation with different outcomes. Perfect example. How does the season start? They're on the side of the road. Remember that? In that group of campfires. Um, then they go to Herschel's barn, live there for a while, and then it's back on the road. Then they're at the prison for a little while, and then back on the road, which is where they are now again. Back on the road. And then when you're on the road, you gotta get water, you gotta get food, and all that good stuff. Basically, what happens is they're walking to Washington from Atlanta. Um, I forget how exactly far it is. I looked it up one time. It's not that far. So they're basically just walking a whole lot in this episode, looking for food, looking for water, not finding anything. Um, Sarsha's pretty beaten up in this episode, mental wise, and as they're walking, if you're finding a comic book, you'll get this reference. As they're walking, there's a bigger group of zombies following them, and they make a plan at this bridge. They're just gonna like push them over the side, and they do that. But then Sasha gets pissed and kind of pulls a Tyrese. If you're a fan of the comic book or the TV show last week, remember Tyrese talked about taking his rage out on a big group of them wanting to die in the prison. So Sasha, instead of throwing the zombies down into the bridge, which is why they were gonna do it, stabs them in the face. Plan goes to shit, so everybody else pulls out their knives and starts slashing off their heads. Um, Abraham found booze at one point, and he drinks the same bottle of booze for however long this episode was. And Daryl ate a worm in the opening. Maggie cried in the opening, and what else happened? Daryl also cried in the episode. He keeps trying to go off into the woods by himself to look for water, and he stumbles upon a barn, and he sits down and um, smokes a cigarette, and then puts the cigarette out on his hand, like right here. Which, if you ever dealt with depression, that's why people cut themselves. They wanna let the pain out instead of like because there's a physical pain to let the pain out, if that makes sense. Um, but I was thinking, I used to be a smoker, and if you ever smoked a stale cigarette, disgusting, and you usually get bronchitis after. So Daryl should get some bronchitis. You can get real sick. Uh, the priest, I forget his name at the moment, tried to talk to Maggie because hey, Beth died, her father was died, and she's like, I used to be religious, my dad was, and because he's telling him about hair shirts, and she kind of goes off on him like, you don't know shit, you didn't even know my dad or my sister. So Carl also found a music box and gives it to Maggie. It's broken. Daryl fixes it. I got really confused at this part No, well, before that. Uh, they're all sitting around in the barn, and Rick says, "We are the Walking Dead." Which, if you read the comic books, you go, "Yeah, you said that in there too." Um, they kind of took a chunk of the comic book that's this, like this big in the comics, and made it into just a couple episodes, which is cool because I thought that was kind of boring in the comic book. Adam Wandering, which they're still doing, and so Daryl fixed. This is where I got confused. So they're in the barn, hanging out, and then Daryl's like off by himself, and there's a huge thunderstorm, kind of like a mini twister tornado type thing, but not really. And I guess it was a twister. Twister tornado, what's the difference? One's tropical, right? Um, but Daryl's sitting there by himself, and then he quickly looks out or he gets up and walks off because he says, "We ain't them," and this is why this episode's called them. And Rick confirms like, "Yeah, we're not them," and then Daryl's sitting by himself and sees a whole bunch of zombies coming towards the barn. He ties it and then pushes it against it, and sooner or later everybody's up against it, pushing it back, leaving like like mud, and then they're like that kind of, and they're pushing back on the door, and then Maggie wakes up looking at Daryl and tells him like it's okay to rest now. So I don't know if that was a dream or what, because kind of I was thinking when this was happening, okay, why don't you just run out the back door? Of course, because there's a thunderstorm, tornado, whatever you want to call it, twister. And what are you gonna do when now that there's a whole mess outside? And then she tells Daryl it's okay to rest now, and he gives her back the music box that Carl gave her. There was some gunk on the gears, and then uh, Maggie wakes up Sasha, and they go out and look at a beautiful sunset, and or sunrise, not sunset. It's the morning, and then they have a moment about how they're gonna survive, how they're gonna make it, and that's the hard part. Maggie opens the music box, winds it up, and it still doesn't work. They kind of laugh about that, set it down, and then here comes a mysterious stranger that says good morning, and he's real clean. And then he puts his hands up and he says, "Stranger danger, I know, but I have good news. I'd like to speak to the man in charge, Rick, right?" And that's how it ends. So, like I said in the beginning, they're very good at repeating the same situation with different outcomes. So, see y'all next week when they kidnap Aaron and ask him the hard questions. Peace. They also shot Nate.